Now, some of you may be sitting there thinking, well, you know what? I don't work at a Pixar, I don't work at a Google, we don't have these capabilities. I want to tell you there's still hope. Again, we looked at many people who were working in organizations that were, I think you'd sort of say, were unfriendly to innovation. We looked at people who were working in functions or parts of the business that, in fact, are not normally associated with being out there on the frontier. For instance, we studied the general counsel of a pharmaceutical company. And what she needed to do was figure out how to get their outside counsel, the 19 competing law firms that were trying to get business from them, to work together as an innovative community. We also looked at people who were in sales and marketing in companies that were very product-driven, right? And they needed to convince the people in sales and marketing, guess what? You can be innovators too. Because in many product companies, the people who are the innovators are the people who design the products. The rest of us aren't. And this is, again, one of the reasons why they had very broad definitions of innovation, so that everybody thought that they could play a role in this. So this particular leader had to create a lot of positive shocks to convince people that they also could be creative in marketing and be innovative, and that they better be, because you build a brand from the inside out. And so if all the areas of the business aren't innovative, HR, whatever it is, we're never going to have a brand that's truly innovative. One of the most inspiring stories we got to watch and see and talk to the people about has to do with these young people called the Young Sparks. They work at a company that some of you may know, HCL Technologies. HCL Technologies is an outsourcing Indian IT company. It was actually the company that initially created the industry in India. But by the time we met them in 2005, they were about to become irrelevant. They were number 5, they had lost their way. And so then one of the owners, or the founders rather, of the company, he said, you know, we got to do something very different. So he asked a young man, who's young, in his early 40s, which is very young to become a CEO in India, to do what he could to turn around this company. So this young man, Vineet Nair, decided that what he needed to do was he needed to turn over the growth of the company to the Young Sparks. Because the value in an outsourcing company is actually created by the front line. These are the young people who are going to be out there working with our clients. They are the ones who will control the growth of our company. And he said, one of the dilemmas we have, Linda, in India is we don't have the best education system. So some of them aren't as well educated as you might like. But more importantly, perhaps, the problem in India with the education system, this is his description, is that fundamentally the way it works is the teacher dictates and the student repeats. Dictate, repeat, dictate, repeat. That doesn't lead people to develop their own creative capabilities, their own sense of unleashing their own ideas. So what he had to do to get this to happen, to turn over, if you will, the future of the company to these individuals, is he said we all had to unlearn how we were educated, and the leaders had to unlearn what they thought leadership was about. Because if you grow up in that kind of system, when you're a leader, what you think your role is you're supposed to set direction and make sure no one deviates from it. That's fundamentally how they saw their role. That is not going to lead to the unleashing that we saw in either Pixar or a Google. So what they did was what he described as they inverted the pyramid. And this is one of their little pictures. And inverting the pyramid, he said to the managers, your role is really to support the young Sparks, the young people. And so in terms of doing that, the managers weren't too happy that they were now on, if you will, on the bottom, or they were supporting the others. Inverting the pyramid is what he described it. But what actually happened in this situation, there's lots of pieces, a very, very organized way. And Vineet said it will take us probably 5 or 6 years to make this culture change. And frankly, there's a whole plan about what happened here that I don't have time to take you through. But at the end of it, what he wanted to have happen, again, is that the leaders thought about what's the culture, what are the capabilities we need to have here, so that we can, as he put it, unleash the stronghold of the few, release the stronghold of the few, so that we can unleash the power of the many. So this is an outsourcing company, just be real clear, nothing, not a movie-making company or anything like that. And I just want to show you some of what they've been able to accomplish. So one of the things they did, many pieces to this story, is because the value comes from the young sparks, what they said to the young sparks, if I could use our language, is that you don't want to simply be a value creator, you also want to be a game changer. So Young Spark, we've been hired by this company to deliver on this contract. We're an outsourcer. We can't afford to have any gaps. We must deliver exactly what that value that they want us to deliver. But if we only do that, we will not delight our customer. We will not differentiate what we're doing from our competitors. I want you to think about not only what you should be doing, delivering on that contract, but also what you could be doing. Let me make sure, Young Spark, that you understand the client's business. You understand it deeply, and I expect you to come up with ideas that will either reduce the costs of the client or help them grow their top line. That is your job, Young Spark. That is what you're to do. And indeed, what they did is they created a very structured process by which these young sparks would come up with ideas for the customer, these opportunity gaps that could be closed by HCL. They would show those to the customer would go through those, and if the customer thought something was really promising, HCL would share some of the costs in getting that thing implemented. And as you see here, these are the kinds of outcomes you get from someone who was not so well educated, if you will, who'd been taught initially, dictate, repeat, who has lots of slices of genius to make a difference in this company. So this is a 20-something-year-old. And so for sure, as a result of these sorts of practices, the company was turned around.